way huge than we expected. So we're very excited that you guys are here.
Hey everyone, thank you for having us. It's good to be here.
Thank you for being here. I'm gonna start by saying something like no pressure. Definitely didn't expect the turnout, so we're excited. Hope not to disappoint. But I think that the structure that we've picked for this is a good one. Just kind of talking about how we've approached the process of Claude design. And we really would love to hear from other people as well as to how they've used it, any fail modes that might be useful for people to know. Um, and maybe we can give it another couple of minutes for people to join. Yes.
Yes, I'm down with that. I think a couple of minutes is helpful. As someone who notoriously runs late, a couple minutes is helpful.
Um, I would love to see where everybody is joining us from.
Yeah, that's a great question.
A great way to crash the chat.
True.
Buenos Aires, awesome. Montreal, Boston, New Jersey, Brooklyn, Mexico. Hola. New York go next. I love that. Alec, I'm gonna need you to define rural Connecticut. I'm not sure what that is, and I'm in Stamford. Ohio, Toronto. I love it.
I feel like we should have had waiting music
I just thought about that.
next time.
Yeah, next time we'll plan better for entertainment and not awkward silence. But one more minute and then we'll start kind of introducing ourselves and getting into it. Let's see. Just full disclosure or fair disclosure, I am using this as a kind of like a dry run-ish shameless plug. I'll be at the UX Summit in a couple of weeks. So you are also my guinea pigs. And if you haven't signed up, please sign up. It's going to be a great conference.
Sorry, correction, it's next week actually. And we only have about 20 tickets left for the regular price, which is 1/10 of regular conference prices, but it will be 10 times better than regular conferences because you're going to walk away feeling amazing and learning a lot. I'm gonna drop the link there. Thanks for the plug.
Listen, uh, thank God I rely heavily on my calendar for things to happen in my life. Because let me tell you, I thought it was in 2 weeks. Okay, so let's get started. So I'll start with my introductions. I am MT. I've been a UX designer by way of advertising, if you will, for almost 20 years. Um, So that's important in the context of what I'm going to show you guys, because I also kind of run my own design practice. I've started doing a lot of government meeting and stuff like that. So my idea for Claude Design was, how do I get this to be a system that I can just give it plain text, create those documents that need to be created, and kind of like a set it and forget it. And I know I'm dating myself by saying that reference. If you don't get that reference, then you're not old enough for this conversation. Um, and my part of this is kind of showing you what I would call like the failure mode and the things that are going to cost you if you don't, kind of go in with a plan. My co-host is Carissa, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carissa. I'm a director of UX and UI at a small software development company. I've been with them for about 13 years now. It's it's a different perspective coming from a large agency previously. So my workflow is gonna be kind of more client focused when I talk about how I'm using Claude Design today compared to MT.
And with that, you should take it away, Grace.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we can jump right in. So I'm not gonna lie, I was really excited when Claude Design came out because my company jumped down the Claude Code rabbit hole pretty quickly as a software dev company. They were very excited. It was like my lead dev was like, "Hey, have you seen this yet? Did you try this yet?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, let's do it." So that's kind of there was a lot of encouragement and like I definitely tried it week 1. I've already seen a lot of changes compared to week 1. Some good, some I was like, "Hmm." So that's kind of how I got into Claude Design. MT, do you want to talk about how you got into Claude Design?
Yes. So like I test everything. I am a natural nerd. I'm gonna put it out there. I test everything and I try to break it as soon as I can to kind of see what the capabilities are. As a sole kind of like operator for my own agency, I am always looking for things and tools that are going to help me operate at the level of having, I don't know, 5 different employees. So I don't have an intern that I can pay and say, here is the content that needs to go into this template, go do that, right? But, Claude Design feels like that intern that you have to walk through a million times till they get what it is that you want to do, without the help, obviously, of an Adobe or even a Word document that already has the spacing, the margins and all that stuff. So you kind of have to add that layer. So that's how I kind of got into it. And I use all the other AI models and tools and stuff like that at a pretty high and technical level. So Claude Design, in the words of Claude, the design word is doing a lot of work. And if you've had that, Claude say that to you, you'll know what that means. So that's the story there.
So I see a quick question already asking a little bit about what UI UX is and Figma is. So I'll just give a 5-second overview because this may not be the conversation for you, if I'm honest, if you're that new to UI UX. So UI UX is kind of like the study of user experience, like how they're going to interact with an interface, with a website, with an email, with anything. And it's designing for how someone is going to use and interact with like pretty much anything in the world. I mean, it isn't just technology, although I feel like that's how it gets sold to people. And like the UI part is more like saying the design part is the best way I can say it in layman's terms at this point. Figma is a program that a lot of traditional designers, well, I shouldn't even say traditional because traditional would be Adobe, but I would say the latest design tool that a lot of people are using or were using until AI has kind of started to really shift the industry. And I mean, MT, do you have any more to add to that as to why or how you feel about that?
I have very strong feelings about Figma, and that's not the subject of this conversation. So let's just get into kind of like what we wanted to present to make sure that people kind of have an idea. I'm happy to answer questions while Carissa presents their stuff and vice versa. And then at the end, when we present, we're gonna just open the floor for anybody who has a question, who wanna share their own experience. Works? Yes? Beautiful.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm gonna share my screen and then just kind of walk through like what I experimented with and kind of give you like a 5-second walkthrough of like in like an intro to Claude Design. If you've never opened Claude Design before, this will give you that like quick intro, and then I'll go through some things. So give me 1 second while I get ready to share my desktop with you guys. And so I'm going to explain 2 ways that I ended up going through and evolving my process with Claude Design. So when you start with Claude Design, can everybody see my screen real quick? Just so I'm
Yep.
good.
Yes,
All right, awesome. Thank you guys. All right. Yeah, I no longer can see chat, so I'm gonna rely on my co-host here. All right. So once you make a project, like as you start Claude Design, you'll be able to start a project. So I have already started a project for the context of this chat. And you basically get a little chat window. It does make a little design folder structure for you. As you can see, I have some examples that I've already worked on here that we'll walk through. But ultimately, the first time I used Claude Design, I just kind of went right in and was like, hey, I need 3 screens. Here's the basics of each screen in this flow. And I just quick typed that out and gave it to Claude Design just to see what would happen. And when I did that, Claude Design helpfully came back with a lot of questions. So that is the one thing I will say for me, I thought was them doing a good job of trying to get additional information to actually give you a good output. So for me, I feel like Claude Design is incredibly strong with wireframing. I know some people will say, why do you need to wireframe? Wireframe's an outdated design technique. Nobody does it anymore. My pushback on that is I have a product owner who gets totally stuck in the weeds, like cannot look past colors and fonts and things like that. If you have something too styled, you're not going to get the answers you need. So I still like to work with wireframes, especially in the beginning stages when you just really need to get like minimal answers from like a client or a product team where you're like, I just need you to tell me if this is functioning the way you see it, right? Like I put this button here, here, and here, and I expect these things to open, close, move me to another screen, etc. And so that is kind of how I came into using Claude Design was going, hey, I know I need quick, fast wireframes and something I can put in front of my team. The whole reason I don't just stay in Claude Code or because you can wireframe in Claude Code if you haven't done that. You can do those things in Claude Code. I find the ability to see it quickly and get a lot of them quickly in Claude Design a benefit. I also like the fact that for me, moving it to Claude Code and then also having Claude Code be able to do extra things with it, like move it to Figma or move it back and forth, so to speak, is really helpful. You could continue to build out a prototype, all that kind of stuff. So those are like some of the benefits. I will say it is not a perfect one-to-one when you're going from Claude Design to Claude Code. I can show you a couple examples of that, but I want to kind of roll back because I'm rambling now to that initial test, right? It gave me some pretty good results. And I was like, honestly, fairly surprised. And I had minor changes that I had to make. And I was like, well, how do I do that? I don't really know. So I'm going to show you guys if I can get this guy to load. Are they going to load? No, they're not going to load today. Of course not. This is how it goes. During presentations, it doesn't want to load. Let me go down to one of my other chats and see if it'll let me.
Oh, this is a great kind of thing where it says start save 100 and this is the most scary thing out of this whole experience. Because
Yes.
Claude Design doesn't have, as a harness, doesn't have what like Claude.ai, Cowork, or Claude Code has, which is like, oh, you can see all your recent chats. It will not save it. You will not be able to get it back. You're gonna have to start over. So just know that from the get, like there is no list of these are all your recent chats within Claude Design. They-
That's actually not totally true. This little
oh,
chat
show me.
button.
Let me see.
Yeah, this chat button right here in the top right corner, you actually can
This
see
is
your
why this
past chats.
conversation matters.
Yeah, they've gotten better. Yeah, I thought I lost chats previously as well, but they did make this little window that you can actually. So for this project, I've only had 2 chats, right? But my other projects, some of them are like 40 chats deep. So that does happen. And I do think after a certain number, it gets kind of truncated. But you do have the ability to find chats, but it is hidden. It UI wise, it's like you don't know where it goes afterwards. It's terrifying. I will support what MT said, which is like, when it starts flagging you about this, you can actually, and this is exactly what I did, ask Claude to make like a reference document for your future chats. And then that will actually get saved in your design folders, similar to the way Cowork works. If you guys have used Cowork in the past and you have like all this background information that you can actually add to folders and really kind of use as a reference point, this you kind of have similar things here with Claude Design. But I do recommend still telling it to save out the decisions that you have made and have like a file that it keeps it in so that you have something that you can actually reference and tell it like, hey, this. And that's sometimes better than being like, oh, I know it's somewhere in a past chat and maybe it has context and maybe it doesn't. So that's like a recommendation there. And that's actually kind of like what I'm going to continue going into is my workflow between the different platforms. Like I didn't end up staying in Claude Design. It eats too many credits. And I know MT will talk about this a lot too when she presents, but um, I hit a wall so quickly that my company actually had to bump me up a level previously when this first landed. I burned through Claude Design credits in 3 days. And so I had to go up a level to complete the test I was doing. And there are better ways to do that now. And one of those things I've done to improve my workflow is actually use Cowork and use skills that are in Cowork. Because while Claude Design has skills, you can actually set them in the little plus symbol on here. You can actually set the skill. They're limited, right? They're kind of just focused on that single output that you're going to do in Claude Design. So for me, almost all of mine are just set to wireframe because that's what I'm doing. And I'm not doing any of these other things. But as you can see, you can work on it to make animated videos. You can actually do an interactive prototype. You can make slide decks. You can make stuff that's like a printable document, which I know MT is also going to talk about. So I won't dive into those, but it does have skills pre-baked in. But if you want something that's going to be able to get you more context before you really start like building out your wireframe, you can't talk back and forth with it the same way you can in like Claude or Cowork to kind of like brainstorm out and like work through your own process in your own head. So I definitely like to use a couple skills, and I will share a link to the one group of skills that I use that I didn't create or come up with. I wish I could take credit because they're kind of amazing. Um, but yeah, so I apologize that these are not loading. Just one of the many blessings of Claude, of course. But here you go. Okay, nice refresh help there. So I did some initial wireframes for a website that would let you play like video catalogs for trainings, right? So my fake company here was they needed to make a training platform for their employees that they could just start making a bunch of little playlists essentially and then know that they've done it. So that's kind of what the wireframes are here, just some background for you guys. So in order for me to get to this point, I actually worked in Cowork first, like I mentioned, and I ended up using a couple different skills. One is Grill Me. So I gave it my 50-foot view, which if I scroll all the way to top of my chat here, you can see I basically applied the skill, and then I told them the main goal of the project, and then it started asking questions. And so I went back and forth until we got through a bunch of questions, which is the best part of the Grill Me skill, to kind of like really start fleshing out like what is this project. And then it created a design brief, which is another skill that I like to use, that we can have as like a reference point for all those decisions we just made. And that's the same thing that like I was saying before, is nice to have, that you can then give to, whoops, jumping to the wrong thing. Oh God, all these windows are in the way. Sorry. That let you jump back and forth between Claude Design. So having that brief that you can load in if you needed to, etc., it really just helps like give you that foundation to have a more successful Claude Design session. And I'm gonna just say this: you can do this in Claude Code and skip Claude Design altogether. That is totally a thing you can do, and it's all based on your comfort level in Claude Code, because it is a bit more technical. I do think sometimes it doesn't always understand. So I'm just going to throw that out there. If you like a bit of a more visual partner, I do think this is more that speed. So after doing my Claude Cowork session, right? So I did my Grill Me, I did a design brief, and then I did an information architecture document. It then had a good picture of how many pages I might need to make, right? And so I had it go through and come up with different sections, so you can actually see these are all the different types of page sections that it broke out for me as our like core pages. And so what I did for this session was I actually ran these two. So these two are already created in Claude Design. What I was thinking is, if you guys want, we can do a live session and I can show you how I just literally take the document that Claude Cowork makes and I put it in Claude Design. So that is something we can do live. I'm not going to take up the whole time to do that. We can do that a little bit later. I just wanted to walk through my process. So after that, it would go into Claude Design. And Claude Design has the ability to make multiple versions. So one of these has multiple versions. Is it this one? No, it was this one. Okay. So let's do A/B tests. It also has this ability to let you have things where you can toggle. I will show you that. But I did do have it give me 3 versions of what the layout might look like. So there were 3 versions that I could look at and compare. And then it does talk about different button states down here, which is great. So that in a nutshell is kind of what it laid out for me. Now you can do this and not do wireframes. You could dive right into prototyping. For me, I think you will burn through credits so much faster because you're going to have so many more things to tweak, which is why I like to start here. And then once I feel like these are in a good place. So one of the examples I'll show you literally right now is I made 2 comments. There's a little comment feature in Claude Design that I wanted to actually move this panel on the left side of the video player instead of having it on the right. And so you can see right here, there's a little comment panel, and I have not sent these to Claude yet. You can actually make comments and send them to Claude right away, and they'll make the change. So I'm going to show you, I made these 2 comments, and I'm going to actually send them to Claude, and Claude will end up making these adjustments live for you. So I'll let this do its thing on the left side here while I'm talking
While it
to
does
you.
that, as your co-host, I have the benefit of asking you a question. So how do
Yay!
you feel about this pattern for comments? I have my own thoughts of it, kind of like collecting and then having to click to see which ones you are going to send.
I mean, so I'll be honest, I shared the documents like in the beginning with my team, my product team, not a single one of them used the comment feature at all. So they just looked at them and they were like, "Oh, that's cool," but they were much more comfortable. And this is what I mean by like change is hard, and why these ended up back in Figma, which is ultimately where the end of this goes for me, is in Figma. That's where my product team and my developers were already used to being able to see all the annotations I make, being able to comment back and forth. So for me, staying in Claude Design is very temporary, because my team is not able to use the markup or like the commenting feature in a way that is super useful. So honestly, the commenting part is mostly a me feature then, because I'm the only one really being like, okay, these are all the changes I want to make, but I don't want to keep sending them to Claude and keep getting interrupted. I want to review the thing as a whole, type all my comments, and then send them. Just from a review perspective. Does that answer what you're asking, MT?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're using it as a internal, that's why how I interpret it. This is
Yeah.
I'm making comments on this, and I want to kind of send them all in one batch. It makes sense. What I
Mhm.
think about that is if I made these comments and I've already established because of the pattern that they have that we are going to send this in one batch, why do I need to click on each of the comments so that I can send it? I think that just
Oh,
like is a step, and it's I don't think this is it won't be a collaborating tool with
yeah.
people just because each comment, which I was just telling someone in the chat, each comment will get processed, and that process is going to cost you tokens. So this is not for your, one of your stakeholders to be like, oh, I don't like the shade of green. This is not for that.
Definitely not. No, I was just hoping that they would be able to make a couple comments, but there at the time I didn't even realize that they could immediately send it to Claude and have it get changed. But thankfully nobody on my team even noticed that. I think they were more like, "Oh, this is cool. I can click this link and slide around it." And that was kind of it. They didn't really notice some of the other features. But as you can see, it has now made that change, and our panel here is now on the left side of the video player instead. So it didn't take very long, and it does kind of like review for itself, like it does like an extra check, which I do think is great. And I do want to say that is something else that I noticed Claude Code does too. So I have already ported these over to Figma, but I want to kind of just show you guys really quick, like if you were to do the whole thing, right? First off, you're going to need Figma MCP already hooked up to your Claude Code. I can send a link if you've never done that before and you don't have the MCP hooked up. Figma has a really good walkthrough. I can drop the link later for you to get that step done, right? Because I'm not going to show you that. It's already hooked up for me. But ultimately, if you're in your Claude Design and you click on share, you have the ability to send to. And I will say, I'm not a Canva user, but it's pretty cool that they have the ability to send it to Canva. I've not tested that because I'm not using that program right now. But I did want to flag that because I thought that was very interesting. So ultimately, for me, I just hit send to Claude Code here. And I'm usually using the local coding agent in this little guy here. And what you can do is you can either just copy this command or you can tweak it. So for me, if I go back into Claude Code, I can show you. I actually tweaked it. So I said, here's my latest wireframe that I built in Claude Design. I added the URL and then I said, I need you to open this up, read it, and help me send this over to Figma. So I will say I do have a skill that I built with Claude Code while I did this process. So you can see right here that actually it already knows how to do this. It's not hard. But this makes it so that this can be a reoccurring thing. So I don't have to constantly, it doesn't have to think so hard. So I will say, whenever you can make yourself a skill for something you're going to do constantly, do it. Because Claude Code and Cowork, they can make those skills pretty quickly and easily for you to reuse. So that is something I did. It ends up reading the URL because otherwise, something I will say, if you just tell it to fetch it, it's going to literally build this HTML in Claude Design or Claude Code for you then. And if that's not actually what you want it to do, it eats up a lot of credits to rebuild this essentially in HTML for you to use in Claude Code. But if you're not ready to do that step, that's a waste of your credits and your time at that moment. So that's why I told it to just like open it and read it. I don't want it to build it here. I just want it to read it. And then I want it to send it to Figma. So that's actually what it ended up doing here. You can actually see that it reviewed all the sections and the artboards. And then it asked me a few key questions like, what project to put it in. And, if you wanted a fresh Figma file, which I did. And then it asked me whether or not I wanted to keep this look and feel from Claude Design versus if I wanted to kind of baseline the style and just kind of make it more generic so that it'll be easier for a design system in the future, which I do recommend doing. But for this, I just said keep the look because I wanted to be able to show you its ability to go from design to Figma and where some of those shortcomings are. And then it asked whether or not I wanted the UI structure to be components or flat frames. And again, for this, I just told it to do flat frames because it'd be less credits. But it does have the ability to make components for you right away that can be reused, which is great. So without further ado, I will actually show you what that ended up looking like in Figma. Actually, this screenshot right here is how it came in. And as you can see, it did not come in perfect. This was the first pass, Claude Code or Claude Design to Claude Code and Claude Code to Figma. So right now you can see this got broken, the search bar got broken. The styles are mostly there, but it's not perfect. There's some things that are a little shaky. This icon's missing. It did tell me actually, and you can, if I go back, see, it does tell you that it had some issues. Here we go. 2 fidelity notes. So it does say that it can't do a couple things. Fine, not a big deal. So when I went in and reviewed and I saw these things there were issues here, I did go into Claude Design and you can actually edit and tweak in Claude Design, but I find it very clunky. And I will say I did not feel like that worked well, but you are able to see and click on how Claude Design has built something and you can get the name. So for me, I said, you see how this one says inside sidebar? So I know this is labeled as sidebar. So when I go back to Claude Code, I can tell it which element has an issue, which is exactly what I ended up doing. So I told it the research bar and summary chips are not loaded correctly in a Figma, which I had found in here, like the names. And then I sent that back to Claude Code, and Claude Code did fix the search bar and the chips for me. It reviewed it again, and it did fix it. So there are ways that you can work back and forth. And now I'm able to actually edit these things in Figma as needed. And like I said, for me, it's helpful to be able to annotate in Figma because that's where my company and my developers and everybody is used to getting that information. But don't get me wrong, I can also take info from Claude Code and just give them markdown files or give them CSS or JSON files, which I have also done. But in order to make sure everybody is on the same page, because I'm working with multiple developers, sometimes it's really helpful to still have all of those annotations written up in Figma. So that is ultimately like my process in a nutshell. So yeah, I don't want to talk for too long, so I'm going to kind of cut myself off right here. Are there any questions, MT, that I can kind of try and quickly address before I hand this over to you?
Yes, there are a few that I was flagging, and I'm going from the bottom to the top. But I think you already covered that. Is there a Figma migration one-on-one? And I think one-to-one, and there's not. It sounds from what you said.
Not really. It's close. I mean, and I had a lot more success on a different styled project. The port over from Claude to Figma actually was a lot cleaner. This one had a couple issues. So
And then the other one was, can you copy pre-built skills and that way you can use it in another surface without credit issues?
Um, yes. I think ultimately, from my understanding of how skills work, skills are set to your user and your machine. So all the skills I've used on this machine can be accessed by Claude and be reused like over and over again. If I think that's answering your question,
She was
like you don't have to constantly reload the skill. You just tell it to you find the skill. And if you've already loaded it once on your machine. Now, if you were to go to a different machine, you'd have to fix the setup, from what I understand.
This was more of a question when you were showing the skills panel within Claude Design.
Oh, Claude Design. Oh,
Yeah.
I did not load those. Those are preloaded from Claude. I don't know if I have any ability to actually um add more there, to be honest.
It
I
doesn't look
have not
like it.
I don't think, yeah, it doesn't look like it. Um that's a great question though. And maybe they will work on that in the future. And that's also something we can look into more. But from my experience, I have not found a way to add them. That's why I was making a lot of those like markdown files that I can just give Claude Design so that it already has enough context for certain things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we transition to moi?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So let me share my screen and hopefully this is gonna go as clean as I think it's going to be. Yes. So can everybody see that? Something called Napa? Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
So this is obviously the cleanup version of what I did. Colors and kind of treatment or whatever are a lot of like what my company already does, but I wanted to make sure because the project that I was working on it had sensitive information. So I spent 223,000 tokens of context to create this so I can share it with you guys in detail. And I think that should tell you this is one thing that I think Claude Design does that others don't do, which is it's telling you exactly, how many tokens you've kind of spent. But if you ask it here, and I love prompting these things to tell me, how much effort is this going to take, how many tokens, and they're like, oh, I can't tell you, blah, blah, blah. Well, we'll get into that. So the whole idea with this was, like I said, for me to be able to have something that I can use and say, hey, I need to put a proposal together for this government bid or whatever that I have to do. There's a structure to these things. Can you kind of fix it? Um, when I started this process, what I gave it was, hey, here are my logos, here are my fonts, here are some templates that I purchased for you to kind of, edit, if you will, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Go of the things and the all of these things are obviously meant for the web. So the production here, for example, this took that template that I gave it, right, in its own kind of like and applied the brand. It used a lot of freedom to apply the brand. And then it created kind of like this table of contents where it gives me all of the different pages that were in within that template that I gave it and how it will apply the brand to it. So if I wanted to kind of say, hey, I need a proposal that needs, why we're different, kind of like the case studies and stuff like that. I can just go in here because this is a kind of like a template, if you will, and say created with these things. The problem with that is that all of the things that you see on the screen is something that goes into your budget. They don't come for free. If you would have told me, do I need a table of contents that is this fancy for me to see all the pages? No, I don't because I just want to see the pages, right? But it does create that for you. And then in this context, and I hope it works, if I wanted to do, you see, this is the problem. This is not working. Oh no, it's in this one. And it kind of shows you everything and you're able to see, then this is an actual document right? And if I want it and it shows me like one page, it shows me the print preview because these are meant to be printed documents. So if I'm going to send them to somebody, I don't know what they're going to do with it. I make sure that they're print ready. So we kind of went through all the process. And then there's this beautiful, very helpful tweak panel, right? That if you're telling it, hey, I want some variations, I would like to see this page, right? Which is like an opener surface in light rather than dark, you can see it. And that's really fancy. But this tweak panel is also part of your budget. So a lot of the things, which is what, and this one too, these are the kind of things that make it easier for you to use and kind of navigate through all of this. But they are also part of your budget, which I think is pretty expensive if you ask me, but it gives you options. So if you're one of the designers, and I am one of those, I have to say, that likes options, likes to kind of turn things on and off here and there, this is for you, but you are going to pay a lot for it, right? It's something like first line indent, if I want to see two columns, if I want to see the footer on the center, the footer on the right, top corner, all of that stuff. So this is kind of pretty fancy. One thing that I would say when you start doing design system with Claude Design, it has a set of primitives. So a set of like components that it has decided that these are all the components that people need in order to work with those things. If you, and this is what happened with this because it doesn't have like a document template, if the components are not there, you're gonna get an error like this where, and there's a part when you go through the process of creating a design system where after it creates it, it gives you an opportunity to review it. So and I only have a screenshot of this because I already went through this process. I had to recover this from my trash, but I wanted to show it because this is one of the things that I submitted for feedback for them. Because this is something, this capability grid is something that is not, they didn't expect for you to put in there. It kind of, for me, this is broken because the code is there, but I can't see it. I can't give you feedback on something you can't render, right? Doesn't work for me. The other thing that they did, and I hope, and this was a long time ago, I'm not necessarily sure if they fixed it or not. Like, for example, this is for a slide deck. What am I going to do with the top left version of the slide deck? I cannot say, hey, I am going to make looks good, needs work on just one corner of a slide. This is another problem. And I think that the limitation with this is that one, this is browser based, right? They also have kind of like, if you look at the limitations here, they have this panel, this like kind of center panel where everything has to render. And that it's a limitation, especially for design stuff. So these are the things that I think are an issue. But with that said, you kind of have all of these things where you're able to say, now I have this kind of document where I can create all these things if I want to. You are going to see some of these things only as code, which after this conversation, I'll probably try to figure out if I can, if you know how to code, if you understand the syntax and stuff like that, what happens when you actually modify these documents, and does that eat into your token, if you will? So with this index thing, I kind of gave it, this is obviously a markdown. I kind of gave it, it kind of understood like here, all the brand boys, how I want you to kind of do the language if I'm doing something from scratch. After I kind of went through the process of just putting stuff in there, I figured out that you really have to whether you're going to do it by yourself, you're going to do it in chat, whatever it is, create a document of what your brand is, what the things that it can do, and how should it apply it, right? It gives me kind of like the different tokens and all that stuff. This is all code that it reads. And then I also kind of have a color reference of how is it supposed to be used. So on the surface of it, this is pretty useful, right? Like if you have a reference, people that if I ever hire an intern, I give it this and they will probably be able to create those things. And then I also have kind of like, these are the different templates for the slides that I want to have. So it produces a good reference. I wish that we had had this conversation when I started this project, because obviously this is not the what it produced from the get, right? There were a lot of iteration processes and stuff like that. I did give it some templates on what to work on, and then how to apply it to the brand and whatnot. But this is not the output that you are going to get from Claude Design at all. So you are going to still have to work on it. But then once you have it, you can definitely say, hey, I want to plug this information in here. Produce this stuff for me. And it's definitely going to save you time. I would say that I, and I wasn't trying to be spicy on the Figma comment, but I have to say, I don't know. I don't remember when was the last time that I opened Figma. I am pretty committed to doing everything with AI and kind of doing stuff as fast as possible. So for me, I force myself that anything that I need change needs to happen with the agents. And if I can't get that from it, then this doesn't work for me. That's the whole point, and kind of being able to, I am not adding the spice. Co-host, please moderate our our audience. It's just like I just think that it's a huge if this technology, right, is going to change our lives and cook designers, then it better do the work that we do. And if you can't deliver the work that I do manually, I'm going to send you some feedback and tell you. Because I am pretty tired of the narrative that, oh, designers are cooked, this going to do that. None of these things can actually produce work with taste. They need references, they need guidance, they need a lot of thinking, which is what we do best. So, I'm a huge proponent of taking these systems, taking them, breaking them, seeing where the failures are. And if we are going to commit to something like this, then we need to make sure that they build it up to our specs. Right now, it needs a lot of work. Like Carissa said, one of the things that I did as I saw that it was eating tokens, and this was before it actually, because now it's part of your subscription budget. So you should take that into consideration. The first time I used this, it was not part of the subscription budget. Um, and I had to wait like 3 days for it to reset. And and I told them that's when I decided to give them feedback. Like these are all the things that happened with all the things that happened wrong with this session. I cannot, in good conscience, wait 3 days when I have a deadline. And then I don't want to say that it has to do with that. I think it's definitely a coincidence. Like a week or two later, they put it into the budget for your subscription. And then I stopped using it because I'm like, this is a token eater. I am not going to use my credits in my max subscription on Claude Design trying to figure out what it's going to do. So there's more work that I need to do with this. It allows you to download a zip file, which is basically a file that you can come create and start working on it with this from Claude Code for sure. The other thing that I wanted to share, because there's a lot of stuff that I think that the UX UI crowd might not have so much exposure to. I took a while back last year AI for creatives, which is purely creative work, all the stuff that you see people doing with Gemini. So there's a lot of stuff out there that you can use. Right now, for a lot of my design process, I use Claude Code and Paper. Kind of same idea. You give it the prompt and it will kind of create the artboards for you. It works pretty well for me. And I have been using it for a long time. Last night I was actually playing with it and Fable. And I have to say, I was very excited that it introduced me to a installation artist that I did not know, kind of like serve as inspiration. The other one is, and this was, I do not use Maven. No. This is Weeby.ai. This company was bought by Figma last year, at the beginning of the year or last year. I was not very happy about it, just because they're supposed to kind of put it into the Figma products. But it's this whole idea of these like, and I did not create this. This was something that a workflow that I copied from somebody else that allows you to kind of create these things. But what I wanted to show you is these are kind of like these are is like a node kind of workflow thing where you kind of it's the same idea. It's not chat. It's the idea that you kind of can iterate, put prompts and stuff like that, and use different models. I was showing Carissa the other day something that I did for my son, where if and I didn't want to share that, but I'm not supposed to share that. What do you think, Carissa? Where I had created this illustration of this random thing that my kid plays on the iPad. He wanted his birthday out of that. And since I'm a designer, of course, I'm going to create custom stuff, right? So I created these images that I told Gemini, give me all of the options of all the possible characters. I did like this Google search for it. I created this image in Gemini. I use the Topaz image upscale, which is one of the things that models that are included into kind of like your credit consumption. I upscaled it and then I vectorized it. And it worked pretty well. So kind of like this workflow right here, the whole thing, these like 3 steps, costs you, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 43 credits. The basic thing for Weavy gets you 1,500 credits. So for super creative stuff, this can work rather than just buying these access to these different models on their own. And there's another one that is kind of like their competition, and they are also doing very well, is Flora. I have this illustration, by the way, in my portfolio. This was the inspiration. I extracted the prompt, gave it a picture of myself, and then kind of created the whole thing. So, there's a lot of stuff out there of how we and this is Flora AI, and I can send the links after. There's a lot of stuff out there from a creative perspective that we are not kind of exposed to, but within like the creative community, the advertising community, agencies, these are the things that they are using to kind of do their work, and they're pretty powerful. You are paying for credits here. You have access to the different models. So if you don't want to kind of pay for these different models individually, these are tools that you can probably use to have access and see what the output is. So any questions? Unmute yourself, chime in. That's what that's kind of like what I wanted to share, and a little bit of my workflow. So I am excited to see who has a question, who wants to share anything that they've been doing. So let's see. Yes. Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yeah, and I asked this in the chat, right? Like, I think the thing that I can think through it in like the grand scheme of a workflow, how this would work. What I keep coming back to is like the iterative process of getting work in front of actual users and then affecting change based on that user feedback and the iteration involved in like the classic UX design model. And that aspect in both of your workflows and not eating tokens in that revision process is where I continue to like get stuck. So maybe both of you could speak to that element of how that works in your workflow.
I would probably say, from my opinion, that all of these things, right, they're tools to create something, but they are not capturing the actual workflow or how we do stuff, right? It's not integrated in any way. I mean, by all means, Cowork, Claude, and Claude Code and Claude Chat are all the same product, different harnesses, and they also don't talk to each other. So I don't think we can expect, right, to have these things kind of be cohesive. So I don't think there is a tool where you can say, hey, I can create the artifact, go through my design process, and also gather the feedback from my users to actually integrate it. At least from my perspective and from my experience, I don't think that exists yet.
So just to make sure I'm clear, what you were saying moments ago is like you don't touch Figma, everything's done with the agents.
Mhm.
But then if you needed to conduct usability testing and provide change based on user feedback, are you providing that user feedback, the research report back into Claude Design or Claude Code to
You
affect
would
that change
probably have to.
for you?
Yes, you would probably have to. So, for example, and this is another shameless plug, but it's the closest that I can get. Like I took Danny's UX, one of the cohorts, right? And one of the things that we did in that course was kind of like how do we create the surveys, or and then how do we create synthetic data, right? So if you're going to do kind of like that first pass, so for example, the project that I did for that class was like, oh, this is a tool, a financial tool that allows people in finance to create presentation decks. If you know anything about finance, they create decks and whatnot, and using real data. So part of the project that I did with in Danny's class was, okay, so do some research, some user persona research on these people, create a survey, have the agent give you some synthetic data, right, based on like what's out there, run a stress test of how easy this is, and then based on that, use that to inform the decisions that you're going to make for the design. It's not perfect because obviously these are not real people, but pretty close, right? So again, I don't know if this answers your question, but if you're going to then um, need to put feedback back in there, you are going to have to gather it. You're going to have to kind of create a report for it, depending on how you're capturing it. And then that's what you feed to the agent. And then I wouldn't do that, have that back and forth conversation with Claude Design. I would probably just do it with chat and kind of say, okay, help me think about this. What's the best decision? What's going to have more impact on the business and stuff like that? And then decide what goes in. Clarissa, I don't know if you have a different experience.
No, I agree. And I was going to say what I have noticed in my own, right, like in getting feedback from my developers or from my product team in like the early stages of some of my products or projects, uh, I'm just having like rapid prototyping sessions in Claude Code. And I just make multiple versions. And then that way I can actually pull those up. And I usually have them say what to base it on, what version and that sort of thing. So I think one of my latest sessions, I'm on like version 15 of options that I've worked on that I could like quickly show to like product really quick to just get a feedback. And like some of that's really cool is with Claude Code, I was able to set it up so I could actually test it on iPad. Like I had it just be able to like connect and then I like mirrored it over and stuff. So then I could actually see, oh, is this button size feel comfortable? And then what I did was actually ask my niece and nephew to poke it, who are like 4 years old, just to see if the buttons felt good for smaller hands because the product was meant for kids. So like it was nice because that was just me as a designer quickly getting something out there, and I just went to see if like they were trying to swipe stuff or they were trying to like touch buttons that weren't really buttons and that sort of thing. So yeah, from a feedback perspective, I usually just make iterative prototypes in Claude Code. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other
Yeah,
hands.
I just want to Henry, and then I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this cool. We'll go next. But something that Laura Kaplan said on the chat, that research has shown that you lose diversity in thought when you rely on non-human data. You are the human in the process, right? You need to be able to kind of identify that bias and make sure that these systems correct for it, because they can't do that. I wish we can do another session apparently but Danny is better to speak about this. But the truth of the matter is, these systems and how we prompt them are gonna be as good as bad as the prompt that we do that. So if like losing diversity is a big problem for you, you can ask it to kind of put that out there and audit what it gives you. And if that's not good enough, prompt it for more, right? Until you get what it is that you want. But at the end of the day, synthetic data is what it is. It's supposed to help you move something along. It's not supposed to, at least for me, it's not supposed to kind of inform your entire design process, design decision. It's just like testing if a survey is going to give you the answers that you're going to need, if these answers are probably what you're going to use. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt. Henry, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, I do have a question about the workflow. So I have worked in large organizations as engineer manager for a long time, but I'm also have experience with my own design company as a solo creator. So now, I mean, traditionally in a big organization, the UI UX designer produce something like Figma or a sketch, something, and then hand over to the developer. And then the developer implements it. But normally developers are very insensitive to white spacing, font size, color, all kinds of things. So after the design is delivered, there is always a long time of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, where the UI UX designer is correcting the implementation of the developers. So now with Claude Code, Claude Design being so good at producing a design that is already in HTML, do you feel that the role of UI UX designer can be expanded to not just produce the static design itself, but a reusable component that's already styled, ready for developers to hook into the company's application framework or the backend data? And that way it saves a lot of headache for both the developers and the designers. What do you think?
100%, absolutely. The whole like design engineer, whatever you want. When I took that class that was like the AI for creatives thing, and even after I took the class, the workshop for Danny, I am convinced this is the era for creators. No better creators than designers. We see the problem, we see the solutions, and we are going to be able to deliver. So, a lot of people like to say, oh, well, designers are a problem the moment that, and I think there's a lot of investment right now in tools that are designed, that have taste and craft. But the problem is, taste and craft are not something that you can define in a vacuum. You're
Right.
going to have different tastes and a different level of craft, and the definition of that is going to be as big as the pool of people that are actually doing that work, right? Whereas the price for building engineering has come to zero. You have engineers that are like, and I hate X, I'm formerly Twitter, like it's a cesspool, but that's where the conversation is right now. The amount of engineers that are talking about kind of like how their workflow has changed, how they're not looking at things. The guy that created Claude Code, the man does not write a single line of code. So, but that cannot be said the same for designers. We are the missing piece right now in anything that has to go with design, our training, our experiences, how we interpret things. That's the missing piece. That's the taste, that's the craft, and that's something that you cannot convert into binary because your human experience kind of comes a lot into that. So, it's kind of like at least that's how I approach it. I'm the kind of person that you give me new technology, I am going to learn it, I am going to master it, and I'm going to keep my mode because I am the mode. Our
Yeah,
experiences matter.
and I also feel that that increases the security, especially the job security of, I don't know if you guys agree, increase the job security of the UI UX designers in a big organization. When it comes, there is a budget pressure. Because now with these expanded tools, you guys are contributing directly to the production system, not a pre-step to the production, but you're directly integrated into production. And you guys are saving developers time in like trying to convert a static image into living HTML file with JavaScript, with all kinds of data binding. So now you're literally part of the production.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that the other way that we can actually be part of the production, somebody needs to write the limitations. Somebody needs to write the rules of what's meant to happen, what the experience is supposed to do. Claude Code can implement whatever you want. These things are prompt based, right? You can say how we should do this, but it would be the job of the designer to kind of say these are the rules of the game when it comes to developing, right? And for us to kind of be able to predict how we want the application to flow. So I would probably be, and this is my spicy side, at the table. Let me like, excuse me. I'm happy to, put our skill document together of what the constraints are here. But I don't have to do that because now I can build it myself. So please step out of my way and let me do my work and let's get this stuff going. So I'm actually pretty excited about the whole thing, with eyes wide open of what it means. So yeah, Clarissa.
I can confirm I am doing this. I actually committed my first PR last week, or second PR last week for my dev guys, where they had done some of the initial stuff while I was still cleaning up my overall design system. Actually, I'm still cleaning up my overall design system, but I just fixed and modified a bunch of the spacing and the colors and shifted a bunch of things to make them more accessible and all that stuff. And at the time, the devs were just coding and getting like the structure in and like some of the quick functionality. And so now I just pushed based on what they had built a whole bunch of changes for that. So I can say that that wave is coming, and it's not as hard as you think, as long as you have Claude Code be able to access like the correct Git repo and like read how they've already set some stuff up. So can confirm I'm in that wave right now, learning that process.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Cool. Please tell me
Yeah,
that I pronounced that correctly.
yeah, it's cool.
Awesome.
So, so here's my question. I also come from IT background, and I have done a lot of designing in custom products. This Figma design, I have seen how this is done in the wireframing side, but my concern is to one of the things that Henry has also raised, the similar kind of concerns I have is once you create a design today, okay, it's not approved. Legal has to approve it. Marketing has to approve it. Multiple stakeholders have to approve it. And it goes in production. Okay. Now, the problem that I see sometimes is the scalability of the design. When you are getting this all ready-made code, written by Claude, how I'm going to scale it. I just say my users are going to be only 2 million users. But tomorrow it may have some proactive users, the traffic and everything. How will I make sure my design is scalable using all these agents and Claude and everything, which I'm not so much familiar with Claude. So I am still very in a beginning stage of this understanding Claude. But I'm just saying that how will we do it in a global enterprise-wide solutioning?
Oh, I'm gonna let Clarissa answer that because if I answer that, I'm gonna open a big can of worms on a very technical subject and kind of philosophical of AI in general. So Clarissa, please take it away.
No, so I'll tell you why. Why I'm asking this question is I have worked for utility domain recently, where we have consumers every time the customers are growing, right? You may have a small, county or something, and then people start growing. May always the solutioning revolves around scalability of the solution, not about just thing. And then now we are taking humans away, putting all the data set that we are using AI. How I'm going to maintain it? Maintainability is my biggest concern, and then scalability. And the other problem is that suppose you have a list of prompts you're using. I learned about the thoughts of like a tree of thoughts or something, TOT and whatever it is. It's wonderful. How you manage that?
Right now, that's something that has to be created manually. That lives in whoever head is managing the organization. At least that's how I'm seeing it. And there's a lot of work that needs to be put into actually creating the layer that holds accountability for all of these things, that moves the state of the projects forward. That doesn't exist right now in any this AI tool whatsoever.
So my problem is, can we stick to a timeline that we say marketing and legal may expect us to deliver this within 2 months? Can I deliver in 2 months? Because the complexity with people are learning new technology. I don't know how these questions have been answered in the enterprise level.
I can tell you right now that, they're probably not. Especially, I don't know if somebody please chime in here, but there was a huge enterprise that said, their developers had unlimited budget token, but budget token, and they said you need to cut that back because this is getting really expensive. Where everybody was like, oh well, this means that it's going to say that the AI bubble is popping. No, it means that before you bring AI into your organization, you need to actually think of what that means, the implications of that. What are your processes? What processes are going to be replaced by people? But the truth of the matter is, you are always going to need a human in the loop. They will love to say, oh, AI is great. It's not good enough to run on its own. Very short, very short loops or whatever they want to call it, whatever you have in length and in processes together, the context window, the moment it gets big, it starts hallucinating. And if you don't have a process to audit that, to organize that, to make sure that you're checking in, you're gonna end up with a whole mess that you don't know how to untie. So you bring up a good point, and it's a conversation that a lot of people are not having. But there seems to be that everybody is very trigger happy to implement and not so trigger happy to understand exactly what it means for the organization and how it's going to affect it.
Yeah,
Ella,
thank you. Thanks.
sure.
Yeah,
Ella, I'm gonna let you
sure.
chime in.
Okay.
But I
Um,
want to, Chuck D actually had his or her.
okay, no problem. I'll wait. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. The question I had, and I'm not sure if you answered it before. I got pulled away from work, which is unfortunate type thing. But I know that your primary use of it was to go from Claude Design to Claude Code. Um, if you are, do you know if it works as well if you are using different infrastructures as far as that's concerned? Because I know that a lot of people, because they are more integrated with GitHub, are using Copilot for that. And I didn't know if the same methodologies applied if you were going out of the Claude infrastructure to bring it into something like Copilot or something like that.
That's all you, Carissa.
I don't have experience with that. We mostly keep everything in Claude Code space right now at my company and GitHub. And when we're tracking things, we're tracking things in linear instead of like a Jira or that sort of ticketing system. And they're all interconnected.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't have a.
Oh no,
We
I
are
was just
mostly
wondering. I knew
using.
that it might not be there, but I just had a question. I
Mhm.
just wanted to.
I mean, if
And
anybody else can jump in the chat and want to actually put their 2 cents in, please feel free and then tag Chuck. That'd be great. We want this to be open mode.
and just talking about the prior question, a lot of that goes with also having someone in your CTO space that is interested in policing how you introduce AI into your workflow. You can't introduce it as fast as it is put out because you run into issues with governance and everything like that. If you, hey, this model came out today, let's go ahead and use it right now. You have to check and see what the changes are beforehand, and that has to be at that level rather than leaving everything to your coders to, wallow through. At least that's been my experience. Thanks.
I am
Thanks for
so
the session too.
happy. I am so happy and so excited that we're having this conversation and a room full of designers is kind of bringing this up because it's not a conversation that is being had and it needs to be had. And the reason why we're bringing it up is because we see the problem before everybody else. So kind of, if nothing else, take that away and with you and kind of be like, okay, this is the problem. This is what these people are not thinking about. Let's get to work. Ella, please chime in because it seems like you have a bunch of stuff that you want to share
Sure.
with us, and I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm okay, awesome. So I just wanted to chime in a little bit on the enterprise-wide side of when you're dealing with AI and how you want to make that scalable. I believe it was, I forget your name, sir, but there's a few things we have to bear in mind depending on the industry you're operating in and whatever the regulatory or, government type restrictions that you have in place. One thing I do want to call out is the fact that when you're dealing with AI, to make it scalable, we do like to use fine tuning, which are pretty much pre-trained AI models on a specific kind of data set. So if you have a process that is highly iterative or depending on, I don't know what field you're in, so I'm not able to hone in specifically to what you're referring to, but you can save costs there. Licensing is another thing, and depending on the company you're with, you can always kind of work out deals depending on how large your company size is. Other things that we like to also call out, besides the fact that it's good to have a human in the loop in these things because AI is fairly new, but let's face it, we can always mimic any kind of data. And there's always a very interesting dance between fine tuning a model and machine learning when you start thinking about how you could get these AI tools to think like us, right? So the other thing that needs to go in here is also the culture of the company. Some companies are not as sensitive to replacing humans, in the workforce. Some companies are. Some companies care. They want to have people there. And depending on the nature of the business, they like the human touch. Depending on what you're doing in your industry, it may not necessarily be weighed as heavily. So whenever I think of scalability and I think of, on an enterprise-wide scale, you have to look at the nature of your business. You have to look at things like, what are the goals that you're trying to achieve, along with what kind of projects are repetitive. Like there's certain things and models that you could create that you can reuse time and time again. Tokens are a big thing. And, I work for a much larger company. So we do have a whole department that handles that. Cyber is another thing. You guys have also mentioned things with concerns with hallucinations and things like that. Even the kind of information we put into the AI, let's face it, these companies can get hacked, So there's a lot of guidance and guardrails around how we engage with AI. So whenever I think about scalability when it comes to AI related tooling, always think about, fine tuning, pre-training your AI models. That's one thing that could really help cut costs. A human in the loop is always good. We value that where I work, always having a human in the loop depending on the kind of project that you're dealing with. And yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. It's definitely going to have to involve different departments and a culture that comes together to kind of figure out what's the best way that will serve your organization going forward. It's not just about the bottom line sometimes. Sometimes it's about the tooling and the attitudes and the different, I guess I could say, uh, the structure that you have in place that can actually be sustainable over time. In the next year or two from now, what does that look like? AI is pretty new. And I think someone called this out as well. When you look at how fast the technology is changing and you compare how the regulations and the law just can't keep up with it. So a lot of things are just up in the air right now. So it should be interesting what it looks like over the next few years. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
And I hope that, that was great, Ella. Thank you. And I hope that you guys kind of go out there and say, hey, I want to be part of this conversation. I think that a lot of the holes in the systems how they fit right now in the harnesses. Yes, you have a lot of designers, and no offense to anybody that might be from these companies, from the Meta, the Googles, the what's not, right? But there is personally, I think there's this kind of like echo chamber right now in the whole AI and technology community where it's the same people saying the same thing. It's like a, like let me see how I can be more complementary to you. And there's a lot of gatekeeping. What the truth of the matter is, having diversity of thought, like what Lauren was kind of bringing up, and different opinions as to how these things can work, is what's going to make these systems more scalable and better to use. So push to be those people in the room. We are more than equipped in the work that we do to be able to see the problems that other people are going to miss. This is what we do every single day. We live in a problem area. We go out with our children, with our significant others, and we're like, oh, really? That's a decision that they made for that. It happens all the time. So I think that if before there was a thing where, oh, designers should be at the table, designers should be designing the table. And I'm not saying this as a designer. I'm saying this as a business owner. I'm saying this as a user, as heavy user of this technology. I haven't found yet better equipped people to actually distill the problem and put solutions forward. Yes, I'm biased, but you know what? Who's going to tell me that I'm wrong? A group of designers? I don't think so. Anybody else?
Hey, yeah, this is SK. Quick question. Did anyone try using any of the lower level models, not just frontier models, using design on local machines?
I am actually going to start doing that.
Okay.
That's another thing that we didn't talk about with AI. There's kind of like all the models or whatever, but you need beast machines to be able to run the stuff that's web browser based. Danny used to make fun of me when I told him that I was going to get my new computer because I have a really big, used to have like an M5 Max, almost like maxed out, and it's great. It's beautiful, but these are expensive, and the capacity. I also have an i7 who is crying for dear life. She's like, just let me go at this point. So hardware is also going to be a lot of these things. If anybody, I put my LinkedIn there, but if anybody has any experience running their own local models, that is not Danny, because I'm sure Danny is very busy and I just keep hitting him up for stuff. Please let me know. It's something that I'm trying to do next, and I'm trying to kind of figure out which it might be the best model for me to run locally on my machine for what I want to do.
I
Thank
do
you.
know I have a developer, software developer friend who mostly does front end, but he's a little bit of a jack of all trades, and he's actually playing around with some of that stuff. So MTI can also connect you with him if needed. But I don't know much about it. I just listened to him gripe as he was trying to get his machine up to the level it needed to be at for him to start playing around. My computers are not fancy enough for that. I wish.
Thank you. Thank you for the information, because I think recently Jensen made an appearance in Taiwan. They were only talking about future and how the local LLM models and how the local compute power will increase, and probably 2027 and 2028. That's where we're looking forward for.
One thing that I'm doing, and this might be too much for other people, I don't know, but I'm going to put it out there, and it has given me so much more kind of power, right? Is I've started to read a lot of the scientific art, which is just a fancy way of saying the research papers, right? Kind of like how how LLMs work, how they're trained, the different theories, the new models that are coming out. I have spent much more time creating, and I don't have time to read all of them unless, there's something of what I'm working on on the side project. But I found that using Notebook LLM and kind of putting it in there as a source, just letting it do all that it needs to do in whichever format is great. Whether you're asking questions, I feel that if I want to get a sense of what the topic is about, a very ugly infographic, let's be honest, because I don't have time to kind of tell it, oh, make it pretty. I just want you to tell me what it is. Either whether it's an infographic, a slide deck and stuff like that, it kind of gives me a sense of what the topic is about. And then I deep deeper if I can. So cannot recommend that enough. This is like, there's a lot of noise out there, And I think that being able to look at the research that other people are doing, I can put together a list of like researchers that I follow and I'm following their work. This is very much, and I can put it in the, I don't know. I don't know if everybody is part of the UX group, the meetup. I don't know. I'm happy to put it in the meetup, kind of stuff like that. I think that we need to do more of that. If there's a topic specifically within um, AI that you want to follow, start following the people that are creating these systems. Read their research, follow what they're doing on work. I'm following people that have a lot of disdain for the word loops, and I understand why. I've read the research, so I think that's the best thing that we can do for ourselves as designers. Henry, did you raise your hand again?
Yeah, because you guys are talking about the local models, right? So some of the local models, because I also have a very powerful PC that I run a local model on. And so any model that I think has a good computer vision capability built in, like a Qwen model, QWEN, those can be used in your local coding and design process. But of course, there are different layers of models. I noticed that you guys are all using Opus because Opus really is very good at designing and coding and has very good computer vision. Because even between Opus and Sonnet, the level of computer vision is drastically different. If you send a static image with your design in it, like a PNG file, Sonnet will not be able to tell the exact font size, but Opus can. So there is layer capabilities between different models. And so you can imagine a local model running on your Mac or PC will be all the way at the bottom of that food chain because it's just not being very capable. But it will be able to do some grunt work, like creating some HTML file based on a template. Yeah. And then coming back to the selection of the model, so some of the current paradigm is that you can layer your models so that maybe you have Opus do the most complicated things. And then you have a sub agent sitting in between that does something maybe like your junior designer. And then you have Quen sitting on your local computer that's like your intern. And so what between Opus and your local model, what would be the ideal model that's capable enough to help you work sitting in the middle, but without creating a whole bunch of junk? So recently, I think a lot of people have success with this based in China is DeepSeek V4 Pro. Its capability is somewhere between Sonnet and Opus. So it's very capable. And its cost is about 1/10 of Opus. So imagine if you're spending $200 on Opus, then if you send that same task to DeepSeek V4 Pro, it will be $20 or sometimes even cheaper. So that's
I
my
do that a lot. I do that a lot, like for example, especially when Fable came out now, and they're like, it's twice as expensive, blah blah blah. I kind of do the thinking, do the all the stuff in one of the cheap models, be very specific about what I want to run, and then I run it in Fable. Like we're not gonna do this whole back and forth, and you're gonna eat all my tokens. We're not doing that.
right.
And it's a great way to test something else. It's also a great way to kind of stress test whatever work that it is you're doing, right?
Right.
Kind of like, okay, if I use it in Sonnet and it's something that has, a lot more implications, then should I run it with a model that is a little at an extra effort to kind of say,
Mhm.
oh, here are the gaps. So there's kind of ways to play around with it as well. The stateless nature of all these things allow you to trust test as well. Like for example, I use Perplexity a lot when I want to run like a lot of research.
Right.
Right, and bring stuff then into Claude because I have set it up now as kind of like a thinking partner for me and the back and forth and stuff like that. So that's the beauty of it, right? That there's so much options out there that we can just kind of play with them. It's annoying because there's a lot of back
Yeah.
and forth and there's a lot of the handoffs are not great. As a designer, I've created my own process to do that because it's very annoying, but do I know how to build an MCP? No. Do I have my own MCP? I do, because I'm not trying to go back and forth on these things. So it's just a matter of kind of asking the questions. And, if you don't know something, tell it.
Yes.
Dumb it down for me, and let me, and then you can figure out, it's gonna do it. It's meant to do it. These things are supercomputers, intelligence, blah, blah, blah. So you don't have to know. You need to know what you want and then let it do the work.
So, do you guys have any success? Because I've seen like Carissa was producing wireframes, right? So, have you tried, instead of using Opus, to try Sonnet to produce the wireframe?
I honestly don't change the models too much. I usually kind of let it pick a model. I'm pretty sure I did use Sonnet at one point, to be
Mhm.
honest, because I've been playing around and doing this for a while, so I'm sure I have. I don't have a specific example.
Because I suspect that doing wireframe, I think Sonnet can probably do very well at a fraction of the cost of Opus. And with Opus, if you're doing something with a lot of like white spacing, you need to fine tune the white spacing, font size, coloring. I think that would be Opus. But just wireframe, I think Sonnet probably will do that very well and much cheaper. Yeah. Thanks.
What's the tool name you said? Okay. Henry, you said the tool name.
The Opus and Sonnet. Those are the three different. Claude has Opus at the highest level and Sonnet mid-tier and Haiku at the lowest tier. I almost never use Haiku, but between Sonnet and Opus, they're both pretty capable. But Opus has much better computer vision than Sonnet because Sonnet pretty much cannot tell different font sizes. That's it. Yeah.
Hey, yeah. One more quick question. So, in today's world where you can create prototypes within minutes, is there value for wireframe still? Like,
So when I did my presentation in the beginning, I prefaced that the reason wireframes were still useful, at least in my company, was because I have a product owner, and I've had clients that get really hung up on colors and fonts and things like that. But when you really just want to get feedback on, is this performing the job that you want it to do, and does this take you to the place that it needs to go, like um you need to like take that out of the equation, because people get so stuck on like, well, that doesn't match my brand font, and well, how does my logo look with this, and then they start focusing on stuff that's not a part of the conversation that you need to have at that moment. So that's why for me, wireframes create more value. Same with like, if I need to produce something really quickly, um I get stuck even with noodling a prototype because it's not quite the way I need it to be. I mean, like, I'm not going to lie, I get stuck in the weeds with that. And when I need to just get something out that I can be like, devs, how does this work? Like, sometimes it's a combination of wireframes and a prototype. So for me, one of the things I did actually, like probably a month ago for a project, I did a couple wireframes that I could annotate, but I also had a prototype that I had in Claude Code, and I gave them both. And I was like, here's my annotations. Here's kind of my expectations on how this prototype might continue to evolve. And here's my preliminary prototype and what I'm seeing it function like. And that was just a better means for us to have a conversation. So for me, I do understand what you're saying. And depending on the client, I think you can definitely skip wireframes, right? If you have a very clear vision of what they need and it is simplistic, skip the wireframes. But if you have a more complex product that you're building that needs more back and forth, then I still feel like wireframes have a home, personally, in the process.
got it. Thank you. Because the problem that I'm having right now is because everybody has access to all these fancy tools, they're building prototypes and shipping it to clients and business partners. And then we're taking a retrospective step of creating wireframes later on after creating prototypes. So just wondering, what is the use of wireframes? We can entirely skip that process and just share our prototypes with the partners.
I mean, just because you
Yeah.
can doesn't mean you should. Like, I would
Yeah,
take it way back to, I sometimes I don't even do wireframes. If you
right.
cannot understand what I'm trying to tell you with an user flow, how I'm showing you how these things are going to hit the system, then we have a different problem that a wireframe, full design is not going to solve. And I think that, yes, as designers, we need to be able to kind of adapt to our stakeholders. Everybody has, I for the longest time, I used to do very high fidelity wireframes just in black and white, so these people can concentrate on what I'm trying to show them rather than the colors and this and that. But the truth of the matter is, I usually start my work in user flows. I want to understand where it hits the system, where stuff is going to do. And I think that because everybody has a access to the fancy tools, not everybody has the ability to see the product from a system perspective. And that is where our strength is. So
Right.
this is my motion on the designer side to start showing more user flows and diagrams and all that stuff before you start talking about producing, and listen, Claude produces them very, very well. I'm not saying you have to go and create
Yeah.
them yourselves, but I think that, our strengths are in our expertise. And if everybody can create a prototype, if everybody can create a website or whatever, what can we create that actually adds value? That's just my 2 cents on it.
I agree with you because the leadership is expecting things to be done as soon as possible. Now they have AI as DLC. Previously, it was 2 week sprint. Now they're cutting it down to 1 week. They want everything delivered as soon as possible. So that triggered my question. Thank you.
Guys, you gotta make my spicy side come out, because I'm ready to be like, let me put this user flow together for you, and in 1 week you can come back to me and tell me, where did this break from your design? I'm like, you see here? This is how it broke. This is what gets me in trouble. I need to stop. I hope I'm making a good impression on everybody. I don't wanna ruin that. If we don't have any more questions, any more thoughts, I'm happy to kind of give everybody their half an hour back. I am still extremely impressed that we were able to keep everybody engaged, even when it was not the 300, but I hope that you guys found a lot of value in this conversation. This feels like the same conversation that I had one-on-one with Carissa. So if you're part of the UX support group, find us there, chime in. We did the LinkedIn drop. Add me, ask me questions. I'm always happy. I spend a lot of time with Claude, so I need to speak to actual humans. And yeah, let's keep the conversation going. I think we need to be a little bit more louder about our expertise and what we bring to the table, and how we are all kind of like using these things to make our work better. And this is the build economy. Build. Everybody here knows how to build. Just build it and ask questions later, basically. Carissa?
Oh, I was just gonna, plug again next week for the summit. Please come to the summit. I was a part of it last in the winter, and it was amazing. It's going to be amazing again next week. I'm going to be there, but not in a presentation standpoint, but as a supporting role. Everybody that is a part of it is amazing. You're going to learn so much. You're going to get some really great connections out of it. I mean, I feel like this has become just such an amazing community where we can just share and learn and grow together. So that's my little plug for the community and for the event coming up next week. We definitely would love to see everybody there.
Oh, well, if we're doing shameless plugs, I'm actually part of the Zoom. I am doing the session on auditing and trusting the agent's output. So yes, come. I think the reason why I decided to be a part of the summit is because of how tangible it is, and how you are actually coming out with something that you can use. So yeah, sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to shamelessly plug myself, but I am. So yeah, please connect. Have a conversation. There's a lot of interesting conversations, obviously, to be had. You get 20 minutes back. Thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation with us. I'm sure Carissa and I are still in awe of the amount of people that we were able to put together. And if there are any more conversations that you guys would like to have and you want to host yourselves, by all means, put yourself out there. This is the moment to have those conversations.
Can I add one thing before we
Yes.
close? So if you really enjoyed this conversation and want more, have more questions, please leave comments on the events page so we know and we can do more of this. And with that, thank you, Carissa and MT. That was amazing.
A quick question. How do we keep track of this, all the LinkedIn profile in this chat after the meeting is over?
I did a very old school copy paste. So
Of the entire thing?
so I can just send it over with all the links. And
Okay,
all
yes.
this one for grabs, I'm happy to put it together and put it somewhere for everybody to grab.
Yeah, will you be posting it into the meetup group or somewhere?
Yeah, I think that's probably gonna be the easiest way. I did post something there. I don't know. I'll just put it in there. I'll figure it out. I'll ask Danny, how do we make sure that you all guys get it? But I made a point to grab them because I wasn't. Oh wait, guys, if you're gonna put them now, 1 second. Oh, here we go. I'll do another grab and then yeah, we'll send them over.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, bye everyone. Nice meeting you all.
Bye.
Thank you.